Database is a digital way to save people's information, not really people, any information in a digital format. So we have different type of databases. The one that we are interested in is RDBMS. RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. The word relational means it has relationships with other entity. And we're going to talk about what I mean by entity down the line. Now, the purpose of what we're doing is to save information. Okay, my people have joined finally. Okay, let's continue. The purpose of what we're doing is to save information. And the information can be saved in just one place. And that place is called table. Table is where you save any information that you need. And before you save information into a table, you need to have a database. Before you need to have a database, you need to have a system that is this database is going to sit on. Before you can have a system, you need to have a software called MySQL installed on it. In previous videos, we've already covered this installation and what have you. What's up?
Last time
You did road. Okay. David, how far with my assignment?
so I've not had time to do it, but I'll do it. I'll definitely do it before our next class.
Okay. So what do we do now? What do we do now? Because I don't want to do it.
Can we provide can we
I don't want to do it.
can we touch it again?
The join. No, this join. I never teach them. I'm not teaching it. Do you understand? I don't want. It's a different class. I don't want to teach it. I want you to first understand the normalization that we did. Right? That was the purpose of that. So
Can we go back to the normalization again?
I wanted you to. Oh, the class is there now. It's just repetition. Do you get the video is there? So you can always reference to the video. The video is there. So, but what I can do is that I can provide another example. I just hope that the example will let me see. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, sir. Though last time I was not in the class, but I was able to watch that very video.
Okay.
I really understand. But there are some concepts that are needed to understand you more understand. Take for instance, we're working on a let me say student result database
Hmm.
that permits you to hold like scores like individual person scores on a particular subject. Take for instance, maybe you have a class of people and each person offers like 5 courses. Let me say, and you have students that borrow from that other courses. So in order for us to normalize it, it means that for the course alone, understand, you have to create its own separate table with the course ID, with the course name and the course ID different, right?
I'm trying to understand what you are saying. So the settings you are painting is a setting of a school system that allow people to subscribe to different courses based on their what again? Based on their what? I want to actually do that today. Let's do that today. So should we paint a school scenario, right?
Hello, sir. Let me explain. Maybe you can get it right.
Okay.
Okay. Just like I'm just referencing back to my university time. Then when I was in school, our exams portal, we have people that borrowed courses from outside our department. You
Okay.
understand? Into our department, and inside our department, we have people. Say student result database. I don't know that I call it portal. That can hold the course of every student per course. Take for instance, maybe we have several departments in one faculty. We have sociology, we have political science, we have economics, and on sociology department alone, okay, this one now is taking 5 courses. Understand? Okay, this one now on political science is borrowing from sociology department. Understand? So like the table now, what I'm going to create, let me say in the form of normalizations, it's going to be like, okay, you have a list of courses, you have a list of departments, and you have a list of, yeah, courses, department, and scores, and the course ID. So in order to normalize it, it means that we're creating a table for course different that comes with the course ID, with its own ID as a primary key, and for the student alone, and for the result alone. So I don't know either, let me say, the design system we don't talk about now, it really makes sense. But just like causing reference to the normalization, maybe there's a way you can throw light and make it understand.
Okay, well, I will not say I understand fully, but this is what I will say. Most times, before all these things that you've said now, it would have been better if you've is well written out, right? Because see that this point we are on trying to make, trying to create database. Every detail is very key. When you are making decisions, there are things that you've said now that are forgotten, but I try to understand as many things as possible. So when I'll be giving you guys, we'll do something this evening. We'll work on it, but not exactly. It will not give us the exact result, but we will work towards it, right? And then I will also use my British, my knowledge in school to give an idea of how it will work. So that way, we will then. That's what we'll do today. So if it doesn't meet your requirement, don't worry. What you can do is you can write it out. Then we'll now pick it one by one. Because I was even struggling to hear you because my speaker is not working well. I don't know why. But let's work with what I have, what I want to do now. If it does not meet it, you will now document or write out what the system should be able to do, and then we build the database. Now, don't worry about which one should be primary key or normalized or non normalized. The first thing you need to worry about is first capturing the information. And then you then make the decision of what you are normalizing and not. Remember, I told you the last time that we will decide if we need to denormalize. There's normalization and there's denormalization. Denormalization is when you've over normalize. There's a point where you can over normalize your table, and then you can then bring it back. Say, hey, I don't need to normalize this thing too much. We don't need that way, right? So there's you can over normalize this. It's not bad, but there's a cost to normalization too much. When you over normalize, there's a cost to it, because remember that we were joining tables. The cost is that you're going to be joining, which is not as if it's that crazy, but you want to balance it out. Can this data be on this table, right? Do we need to separate it? If we don't, it can just be there, right? So let's go ahead and do something on the school. So I have the school database. I'm going to leave this online shopping, this e-commerce like that. We're going to get, you guys need to do the assignment now on our work to do. So the first thing I want to do, remember how I started the online stuff? What do we do in school? You can pick a particular table, and that is what is going to be starting point for all your table. Look at what we did in other table. In the other table, we just picked, or rather what we did in e-commerce, we just picked one single table, and from the order, we remove the product, we remove the customer, and we remove the, you are supposed to remove the order from it so that we have other items, right? So here too, we can have a primary goal. What is the purpose of us doing an online school software or online university or online college? What is the purpose? Is the purpose for students to be able to go and see their results? Is the purpose for people to go and register for courses? And this method might not just be easily done because sometimes it might be so big for you to abstract. But once you start understanding the basics of designing table, you can just start doing it without worrying, without using this method anymore. You can just start going, oh, okay, I need to have the list of courses. Just like you were saying, oh, we need to have list of courses. We need to have one place to hold all the students. We need to have one place to hold all the departments. We need to have one place to hold all the faculty. That's because you have prior knowledge of database. If you do not have prior knowledge of database, you will not talk like that. However, even though we are doing it like this, over time, you will start having that understanding that everything is supposed to have their table, quote and unquote. Like student is supposed to have his table. Like result is supposed to have his table. Like courses are supposed to have their table, so that you can subscribe to a course and what have you. So let's start by having everything, even though we might not be able to pull everything in one table, but let me try if we'll be able to do that. So you can look for the endpoint. What is the endpoint of our purpose of designing this table? And that endpoint can be, let's say, registration. Let's focus on registration. Let's not focus on results, since I don't know where you are going towards that end. Or let's say there's so many parts to student application. There's registration, there's the exam results and scoring, all those things. So it's very big. So let's just focus on registration. So I will say registration, right? So in registering, we will need the primary key, which is normal because this is registration table. I'm just going to delete it like I started the other time. Since we know what to use to do this thing now, we will use this method. I think I should be able to use this method to pull everything up. Okay, so what am I getting from the registration? I think I need the date that the person registered. Registered date, and this can just be dates instead of date time. I don't need comments. Registered date. What else do we need? So you guys can be echoing all the things we need in registration, please, just to make it faster. You can echo stuffs that we need. What? Okay, yeah, the email of the person, student name, email, phone. So I think that should be basic for the student information. So yeah, I don't want to capture too much information. I think that 3 is good. So yeah, we can go deeper and collect address, collect so many things. So what other thing do we, this is for students, what other thing do we need? So we need information about the course that we are registering for. So registration is 2 ways. You can either register to do an exam or register to enter the school. So we'll do register to enter the school because we don't want to okay, let's say register for exam registration, so that to make it more complex. Okay, so let's do it this way to make it more complex. Exam registration, because if we say register for school, it will be limited a little, even though it's not going to be limited because we will still have faculty. From faculty, we will then have the course that the person is doing for. So let's maintain registration, general registration. So now here we can say we have the faculty. What information do we need to capture in faculty self? Faculty is very important. Okay, department. So this one is faculty name of the faculty. This one is what they say, science and technology or something, whatever. Then this is social science and everything, department. Then what other thing do we need to capture? Maybe you want to know the HOD of the department. Maybe HOD, department HOD. HOD, really? There's so many things we didn't capture in the students. I didn't want to capture too much information. Do you get? We can capture quite a lot. So that's date of birth. So student date of birth. There's so many things we didn't capture. This is just example, right? Just to drive home the point. Okay, so we have faculty name, department, then we have the department is not what we are worried about. I'm not worried about department. Do we need to worry about department? What about the course? We are not concerned about the course. We're not concerned about the department. Actually, it's course of study. Course of study. Okay, so this can be department, but it's actually called faculty more than department. So faculty stands out. So we have course of study, and so you can mute your mic immediately you make comments so that we can have a clean session. So immediately you want to make comments, just unmute, then you quickly make comments, then you mute the mic. So we have course of study. What other thing can we capture? What other thing do we need?
Credit unit.
You said?
Credit unit.
credit unit. So that's
Cost.
okay. Course credit unit. Okay. So that is course registration, because that's under course registration. What we are doing here, we are registering the person to be part of the school. So, and I know you were okay. We can say okay. So that's why I was like saying exam.
Credit unit is for every course, for the different courses and everything.
Okay, for the entire course, I'll be okay. The course has credit units. Okay,
No,
say
the course does not have credit unit. I'm saying the course for the credit unit, that means it's exam registration, not the
and
general
yeah,
registration.
that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm trying to avoid us going down the rabbit hole because this thing is big. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about is big. So I want to close it up as quickly as possible to drive home the point. But let's go. Let's try and do exam registration. Even though it's still gonna cover all these things because you need to know the student that is taking the exam.
You can add student gender, student information.
Yeah, it will be too much. You can add as many things as you want. Address, trust me, you can add as many things. So here we can then go to course of study. Then inside the course of study, you have no, this one is now faculty name. You have course. And I need to separate the course from the course. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I need to separate if you are studying computer science is course of study, right? Course of study. Why the course you are doing inside computer science can be maybe programming language. So course. So this one now will now be course name. We need to separate these two so that these courses will cause issue. Let me say field of study. Good. So field of study, or I can say degree, or I can say whatever, but let's just say field of study. Then course name, course unit. This is where the unit will now come out. The unit for the course. What other thing can we say? This is registration. We are registering for the course. So this is registration. We are just using this to bring out some information. So let's stop at this. Let's stop at this part. Let's now give it proper data type. Well, that we can say we have dates. We have this one. This can do 30. This can do 30. This can do 20. Date of birth, faculty name can do 50. This can do 50. Course name. Unit is number. So we can say small, tiny int. You can say tiny int. What other thing do you want to put there? Okay, if it's compulsory or not. Yes, good. So we can say elective. So we can then do, I don't know how to do enum here in the code, but I'll just do this one like this, 10. So elective, we can just say yes or no if it's elective or no if it's required or not. But we can just use required or elective. Any technology that I want to use will just be fine. So we have all these things set up. So let's go ahead and run this. And we have a goal. So we have our exam registration table. So remember what I did the other time was to start capturing information inside. And that creates duplicates so that you create redundancy and everything. So you can either do it or you separate it directly. So anyone you want to do. So by default, registration date is date that the person is registering for the exam. So I'll just put some random data there. Student name, bio, email. Let me do this one very well. Bio, and I want to do b@gmail.com. Phone number 080. Date of birth. You can see the reason why I didn't want to capture too much information, because we're going to be entering a lot of details. So we now have faculty name. This is science. So I can say science. Let me use science. Then field of study, computer science. Go ahead with your question now. Then course name course name can be,
So I understand that this information we're trying to enter
yes,
will be imported from an interface.
yes. It will
Okay.
not be
So
imported. It will not be
can you at
imported.
least say
It will not be imported from the interface. It will be entered from that interface.
okay, so if it's entered from the interface, does it mean that if I have access to this database, I can
Yes,
alter somebody's information?
yes, you can. That's what it means. You can. Mm. That's why if you have issue in the bank, you go and complain to them. Do you notice how long it takes for them to rectify it? Do you get? They actually go through all these things. You understand? So they go through all these things
Okay, so
to go and try and rectify it. I don't know. Sometimes they go through database, but they sometimes they can't do it that way. They have to go through other means that will be easier because you're not supposed to have access to database directly like this. There are other interfaces that will make sure that you go through proper check-ins before you can just go and change people's information. So the course name can then be, let's say they are doing Python PY 101 because it's in 100 level. In fact, we didn't capture the level. So that's good. So let's quickly, hey, I hope it didn't, okay, this is the information. Let's go and capture the level that this student is now. So here we have all this information. We will now say the level. We will now add level. Then this is a varchar. I'm just put 20. Okay, so let's go back to what we're doing. So if we continue, so we have this, we have the phone number, we have science, computer science, this is Python 101.
what is the list? What's the list like for Baka? Can Baka carry 5?
Yes, now it can. So this is demo, that's why I'm just putting some random stuff there. When you are doing your database, you have to think. See, each column you are doing, you have to think. You have to be conscious of what you're entering. You don't just, like, as we're doing like this, I told you guys the other time, each column is thought through. Student name, how do I want to capture it? Okay, the plan is that the name is 30. You have to think through all the columns. It's not just jumping it. Here that you have course name, course, the name of the course. There's course name and course code. In fact, let me even put it. Let me put it here. So you have the course name and you also have course code. Now they used to have a GNS 101, all these short name. Do you get? So that can be the course code. And then you have the course name that will explain what the course means. General studies, kinekon, like that. So this can be course code. Type varchar. So now, if you are developing this now, and when you've gone to do your research in the school, that they say they use course code, and their course code is 5 character, meaning 3 character for the name of the course. In fact, let's say 6. 3 character for the name of the course, and then 3 number to denote 100 level to 600 level to 700 level. That's guidance, and that's where you come in as a programmer to come and do your research and everything. So you can prepare this and prepare for this. So you don't just put it 500 or 200. No, there's a reason for specifying the character set, and I explained that in the previous classes, saying that these are the space that the system is going to make available for you to be able to enter your data. So if you go and make 200 space available, you are wasting space. Each record that is not using those space, you are wasting space. Okay, let's go ahead. So we come to the course name. So I will put this one in full. I will say Python 101. So I can now say dash beginning class. You know how they do it now? Beginning Python 101. The way they do it now, the way they write it. Then course unit.
Introduction to Python.
Something like that. So Python 101, then they will now say introduction to Python. So we'll move on. Course unit, you can say is 3. And elective, you can say no. Then level for this person is 100 level. Then you can say course code. Course code is Python PY101 or something. Now, we're not going to go ahead and add as many things as possible. But let me send this to you people on the group chat now. You can play with this. Maybe to, let me send this to the group chat now so that you guys can see this, what's going on here. I'm going to the group chat now. Where is the chat save? So I've sent that there. So maybe you guys can play with it and add one or two things to it just to also brush up on it, and you can add many stuff. So let me show you how I will now break it down. Because like I said before, once you know how to do this, you might not need to go through this method anymore. What you just need next is just to think, okay, what are the entity? Entity is individual collection of data that you need. So entity, for example, is a student. Is a faculty as a whole, a course as a whole. So you need to know what data goes together. You remember when we were doing product and customer, product has something it goes together with, so they stay together. The same thing with customer, it has all the data that it goes together, so we group them together. By the time you move the wrong data into another table, you will see it by default. You yourself, you will see it. So let's start grouping data together and start working on it. Go ahead with your question.
So can we add my matric number as just a sample of their product, just like their product ID?
Okay. So let's do that. Student matric details. So that's why I send that thing to you. You can add as many things as you want. So if I come here, I will say student matric number. So this can be VACA, maybe 18 or so. It can be fixed. Since all this matric number is always fixed, so you can fix it this way. So now that we have these details, then let's go and add the matriculation number of this guy to be University of Benin something 1000 . So that becomes his matriculation number. So if we should duplicate this guy, I think this is duplicate. This is not duplicate. How do I duplicate this one? Okay, so you know how we did it now. So we're supposed to keep creating data. So let me do one more, and then we'll go and create this thing, the record. Still for this same guy. We're not even creating for another person. This is just for Steve Bayo. You said no, I can't find it. You can look for it. You can look for it in this thing. If you use your own platform, you will see it in your own platform. So you can see that I'm copying. We don't have data we're importing now. We're making all this up now. We're making it up. Do you understand? These are made up data. So normally when you want to import data, you would have the data, then you will now match it with the column. So these are made up data. So we have computer science. We just made up the column ourselves. So what data are we trying to import? Then course unit. So now this one is not Python anymore. So let's say, what this one is it now? Let's say math. Let me say elementary or something. Then elective, let's say yes. Then level is still 100 level. Then we say MTH or MT101. Then it still have the same matric number. His matric number will never change for now. Okay, so let's do normalization for these guys. So first of all, no brainer, we take out the students, right? We'll create student table. That one is straightforward. So one of the way I can easily create table out of this is to duplicate the current table I have and rename it. I will explain. Instead of me to create the column all over again, start creating, I'll just duplicate this table. And I think to do that, we can right click. We can't find duplicate here, but I will use the DLL. I'll use the DLL to create the next table. So I've copied this DLL and I'll go to new query like this. So there's a new query I can create here. Remember what query is for. Query is allowing you to write something to the database. So I just come here, I paste it, but we can't use the same name. If you use the same name, of course, you're going to get an error. So you can see table exam registration already exists. So we want to create a new table called students. So, but now we want to remove some things that are not student related. So I'm going to remove registration date. I'm going to leave this one. So instead of me calling it student name, I can give it proper name. I don't need to be repeating the word student anymore because I'm now inside student. So I can just say name. For lack of better, I don't need to be putting the real stuff like first name, last name. I'm just being, real here. So let me add your gender. Let me add your gender here. So I have the gender, then date of birth. It's already in date. So all this faculty thing has nothing to do with it. But matric number looks okay to have there. Then I don't need to add student to it. I just say matric number. Remember that your parents, the primary key is still there. Don't go and use matric number as primary key, right? Your primary key is still there. So what then do you do? Once you have this, I think it's looking good. So we can then run it now. So if you run this, you can see on the left hand side, our table is created. We now have our table here. So I can close this one safely and close this one safely. So if you go and look at your table, you have cool stuff, right? You have this one playing here. So what do we then do on this table? Do you remember what we're supposed to do? You introduce a foreign key here, and the foreign key is going to be called student ID, so that this one is good, so that we will know that, oh, it's the ID of the student we are talking to. So we're going to remove everything student here and replace it with the data that will enter here. So let's create new student, which is student one, and his name is Bayo. We have his email called bayob@gmail.com. We have phone number to be just random stuff. Then we have gender. We have date of birth, which I'm just gonna make up. Then matric number, I can just make that one up too, but let's assume is the main thing. So we save that information. We have our student ID, which is 1. It's not called student ID here. It's just called ID. Nomenclature, or the normal way, is that all your table will carry a name called ID. All of them has to have the same primary key called ID. Very important. Do you see registration table is having a name called ID on its own? So inside the registration table, you can't have another thing called ID. If you want to bring students here, you call it student_ID. Student_ID. So let's go ahead and set that up for registration. So I'm going to remove all the thing that is called students here because we already have that figured out. So the delete button is at the end here. We remove that. We remove this. We remove this. Remove date of birth. And I just turn the matric. Okay, I'll remove the matric again. Then I have the new one called students. Student ID, integer, and I'm good to go. Then I go to check the data. Then I add my 1 there. That's our first normal form that we've done. We have several still waiting for us. Now, of course, this register date stays with the exam registration, so that one is a given. The next thing we need to normalize is the course. The course itself needs to have table. Needs to have its own table because there's repetition. We have this, we have this. So where do we start from first? Let's look for where to start from. We start from all the courses because this is course name, course unit, and elective. The course have to be elective or not. There's still complexity with this elective. So let me explain what the complexity there is, but we're not going to treat the complexity. The complexity is that, hope you know that for some courses, for some field of study, some courses are elective, but from other field of studies, some courses are not. Just for you to know, but I'm not going to treat it. That's beyond this class. I'm not going to treat that. That one is complex. So let's just assume that any course that you take is either is elective or not, is being set, by default. So you can do that complexity I just mentioned now. So let's separate the course code. How do you do that? We go back and try to duplicate, to replicate what we have. I copy the exact same thing here like before, and I go to new query and try to create it again. But this time around, I don't create it as exam registration, I create it as course. Another thing you will notice that we don't create our table as plural. We don't create our table as plural. We save it as singular. There are other norm out there whereby they save everything as plural. So here, everything is saved as singular. Course, exam, students, not students, just students. Everything is singular. So inside it, you will see your students. Don't need to, we know that it's not one thing that's inside. It's one student table that has students inside. So your course here, of course, is going to hold courses. So we don't need the student, the registration date. We don't need the faculty name for now. This one get one comma for handle. So I will explain. This one get comma for hand. This faculty name get comma for hand. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's go back to the description. Now, if you look at it, because you have to study here very well. We've been able to agree that course and course unit and course code all stay together. But if you look at it again, some courses are tied to faculty. Meaning, if you belong to the sciences or you are in a field of study called computer science, there are some courses that should just come up under you, because those courses has been registered by those, by the admin that you should take them. So it's looking like we are going to add faculty and field of study inside courses and field and like that. We're going to add it. It's looking like that. And that's where this normalization will start going crazy, because you can still separate both of them depending on the requirements of the business logic that you need to implement. That's why I was telling you in that place that if you specify what it is that you need to do in your requirements you are trying to explain, it will determine what level of craziness we are going to do, lack of a better word, because we can go all out on this thing, try to make it complex. Depending on the business case will determine what your database will look like. If they require some manipulation that you need to separate the faculty from the courses, then you need to provide that functionality from your database so that you can insert what you want to insert from the faculty on its own and then do the merging together. So I will try and address all of them if I can in this video. So let's go ahead. Let me first put them together. Let me put them together and then we'll separate them at some point. So we'll separate them at some point. So I'm calling them courses now. I'm putting them together now. Courses. And course name, elective, level. So this level, I think the level should be tied with the courses as well. Because when you are doing, some courses are only available to some level. So that level does not really matter. So it means the level can be monitored somewhere else for the students. So the students can also have a level to track. You can see that we're getting complex. Student database, you have a way to know, hey, I can look at you as a student. What level are you? I should be able to see it in your data. And when you are registering,
But the student can have a carryover.
that one is separate. See, do you see where you're going with this? That's how system works. So you have to isolate the problem, first. You have to do the problem one after the other. Don't mix the things together. By the time you start worrying about carryover now, you're going to mess it up. Carryover has a separate table. Carryover is going to have a separate table. Carryover does not stop your level. You can be in 500 level and have a carryover course. It doesn't mean that you are not in 500 level. It just means that you have a carryover course. It has nothing to do with the level you are in. And the carryover course can be a 100 level course. Do you see where this one will not make sense? Having level inside course. However, in your students, we cannot have a level. In fact, let me put it now before we leave it. You cannot have a place here to now say, hey, I need to, because when you are promoted or when you move to the next level, you should update in your profile. So we should come here and say we need to be able to have a level. So varchar, and then we save. So that becomes a level. So let's go and enter a level for the person before we continue what we're doing. So we all agree that this guy is in 100 level. So this is 100 level. And then when he's here, and that can be a form of checking to see that, oh, this student that is 100 level is doing the course of 100 level. Oh, that's okay. Carryover is something different. When we get to that, if we are still doing this, we might actually address that. Okay, so we are good that faculty name has to stay. This stay, this stay, this stay, elective stay, level stay, definitely, course code stay. Student is going away because nothing concerning this one is a course information about the course. That's what is here.
So that level you can change in capital L.
Oh, okay, that's true. Nice one. That's true. So we have this. What other thing do we need to do? I think that's good. So we can run this now. So we run this, it worked, and we close this page. Okay, so let's take a look at the course and go and load the course. So in this case, we put the faculty is science. Let's load the course quickly. Faculty is science. Field of, so I can type some things on my head. Computer science. Course name is let me quickly check that. Course name, okay, we have maths. Course unit 3, elective, yes. I'm just picking it at random so that we can leave here. And this course is supposed to be 100 level course, and the course code is MTH102. I'm just putting different number now. So let's quickly enter the second one. So we have science, we have computer science, we have Python, introduction to Python. Then we have unit is, let's say 4 then let's say yes, elective, no, this one is not elective. Then level is 100. You can see here, you can start, and you can start capturing more courses, and you can start changing. Oh, we have another for 200 level, so you can enter as many levels as you want here. This is database for courses. Then you have py Python 101. So we now have our 2 courses. So that means that we can go ahead. So the ID is 3 and 4. The reason why the ID is changing is because we copied from. So you can change the ID. It doesn't matter. So just change the ID. So if we come to our school registration, employee exam registration, you will not need all this once again. So let's change the structure of this database. So we don't need faculty anymore. We don't need faculty anymore. We don't need this. Don't need quite a lot. We also don't need level because the level is already tied to the course you are doing. So the level does not really have much impact. Okay, so now we can then go to, now it's looking like, what else is in this database? Don't worry, I'm still gonna add more things to the database. So now we can come to here within, so this student is one person. This is one student that is loading this information. So it's only one person registered. So we didn't save that information. So the next thing we need to capture here is the fact that we need to put the course ID. Remember, the course ID is not the parent, the foreign key. Course ID. So we have our integer, we save, and then we have our information there. So let me delete all these guys so that we can have a fresh look at the whole thing. So if we have this one, we can then go and put our course ID 1, 2. Okay, the next thing for you to be able to do is that, do you know you can, because this is entry for registration, okay, registered complete. So you can add other things like as the person paid, for the registration, paid, partially paid, or other columns that can be tied to registration. There can be other columns that can be tied to registration, like as the person signed affidavit that is not going to cheat in the exam. Do you get? So because the column is not looking so simple, like what's now in this column? Because that could be so discouraging. After you've denormalized the whole thing, you're not like what's now there for us to do. So let's add more denormalization to other parts of the program, and that's this part where we have the courses. Because that's what I was trying to explain to you, because you can also look at this course and say, okay, why is this thing repeating? Do you see? As in, why do we have repetition of two things here? Let me show you two things that are repeating. We are repeating faculty name and faculty field of study. There's a repetition here. Remember the reason for normalization. There shouldn't be repetition of information. So if I can repeat something like this, so let's go ahead and add more stuff. So what other field do we have apart from, so we can also have science and information technology. Yeah, good. Information technology, because this is also another course. And another thing, in fact, this is wonderful. Another thing is that, do you know that this same department or field of study can also have the same course and call it information, can have the same paper, and this unit will then be different because both of them have different reason for needing introduction to Python, right? So let me throw something else out of it. So let me do general studies. Let me now say mass communication. So this one is mass communication, right? And let me say they're not doing mass. They run for mass, and their unit might be maybe 1, because they don't need maths, maybe 1. And then elective, yes. Do you see that we are duplicating stuff? I'm getting to somewhere. 100 units, and this can be, remember that it will have the same number because it's the same course, but what is different? Different units. Now, what do you notice? You notice that there's a repetition of something somewhere. The repetition is the course name. Remember that whenever you are repeating something too much, you want to avoid error. So let's add one more thing. Let's add another course. Which other course can we do that require maths? Okay, I'll still say general studies. I'm going complex with this, so that's why I'm doing this one. English language. English, they study maths. Let me just say they study maths, right? Let's say they are doing maths, and their own too is 1. I don't want us to enter too much information because we're rounding up the class. So this one can be elective. They are also elective. So you can see that I gave this people 2, I gave this people 1, and it's still the same 100 level. Remember that you can just begin to picture how robust the database will be. How robust and how much information you have to be able to capture in a school database. Now, this one has opened a lot of information up. What that means is that you can further what's it called now? Normalize this table. Remember that we've left exam. This guy has been properly normalized. Let's give it the ID 1 and 2. This guy, we are good. Everybody's happy with this. But now, because we've extracted this one, we've actually created, I won't say a monster, but we've created something else entirely. Somebody is growing up here. So you then need to go ahead and normalize this table. Because of time, I'm not also going to normalize this table for you. Okay, I think we have time. Let's quickly normalize this table. Let's normalize it. So this table can be normalized into 2 or 3. Yes. Some things that you will not need to normalize, like I told you, is something like this, 100. It's just only one data, 100 level. Why do you need to normalize 100? Even though they are repeating, right? You don't need to normalize it because it's just one data. It's not really disturbing anything. But look at this one. The course code is tallying with the course name, and then you might need to normalize that. So let's look at what we need to normalize first. So we can leave this one and not normalize it. Faculty name, we can leave it. So the field of study, we will leave it. What we are normalizing is course name. Course name, course unit. No. Only course name. Only course name and course code. That's what we are normalizing. Because these ones are repeating. Notice what is happening to course unit. Course unit is not repeating. Course unit is dynamic. Even though it can repeat, it's dynamic depending on the field of study. So you don't need to worry. So the one that are fixed most of the time, you can see that anywhere that the course name goes, it has to follow with the course code. Anywhere that the course name Python goes, it has to follow with the course code like this. So these two, you have to normalize it. And that's why I said when you finish normalizing, if you don't normalize too much, you might need to, bless I don't do too much, you might then need to reverse back and denormalize. But in this case, we are still on the right track to keep normalizing this one. Now, we might come to a place whereby you might need to change the naming, because now we already have course ID, which is cool. So we might need to change this one to something different. Instead of us calling it course ID, so this is where you might need to bring your thinking cap on and be very smart about how you name your stuff. So here, this one is called course, which is going to conflict with what we want to extract, because what we are extracting is really the course. What we're extracting is really the course. While these other ones are not necessarily course per se, you can call them course faculty. Yes. For lack of a better word, you can call it course faculty or faculty course. Something like that. You can call it that name for lack of a better name. Then you separate the course separately. So if you are calling this one faculty course, what does that mean? What does that say to you here? It means this one is not going to be called course ID again, because remember, we are separating course ID away. So this one is going to be called whatever you call this field. So let's first change this name, because we're going to be using this name course with something else. So we don't want to use this one again. So I want to rename this table. From courses to okay, let's say faculty course, for lack of a better name. So we save that, and we now have this one as called faculty course. So what will be here will not be course ID anymore. It will be faculty course. Faculty course ID. So nothing has changed yet. We just change the nomenclature because we know that something is coming. We know something is coming, and what is coming is that we want to extract course ID from inside the faculty. So we use the same method we did by duplicating, copying the DLL. I want to remove some course information from here. So I will come here and paste this one, and I call this course. So anything that has to do with course is what I'm going to keep. I'm keeping the course name. I'm not going to keep the course units, because the course units depend on the faculty. So the course units can be tricky. If you are studying mass comm, course units will be different. If you are studying computer science, so I won't put it as part of the course. Elective also is not part of what determine the course. In this information, also the level. Yes, I'm going to leave the level, even though this one is also a little bit tricky, because sometimes they can give you a course that is not in your level. Example, you might be in 500 level and they can give you an 100 level Python course. Do you get? Maybe you need it. So we're not going to tie level to courses. So this is the thing you need. This is the two things you need. These are the two things we talked about. So I'm going to save this one right away, and we have it run. So we now have that saved. So we're not going to go to this one and delete the course name and the course stuff that we have there. So if I go to the database I will remove the course name. I hope I remember the course name, course units, and leave that, and course code. So I go to, so we've removed all those things that we need to remove. Then I can then go back and add course ID. Course ID, because we have a course table now. Can I have course ID? And this is going to be an int, so that we can then put the proper ID to the course. We're just going to randomly put an ID, even though we've not created the course. Let's go ahead and put ID. So we know that this one is, I think one of them is Python. The next one is 2, which is maths. And these two guys are also doing maths. So this is 2, 2. So the first one is Python. The second one is maths. The third one is also maths. The fourth one is also maths. So the people here, computer science, took Python. Computer science again are taking maths. Mass comm people, they are doing maths. Mass comm people is doing maths. So let's go ahead and load the course information. So this is the course table waiting for us. We don't need to say course name and course code anymore. I will just go ahead and just call it name and code. So let me quickly make that alteration to this. I'll just say name, and I'll just call it code, because the table name already says course on it already. So let's go ahead and enter the data to that. So I will go here and do, we have, the name is Introduction to Python. So I can do, so imagine you can now load all the courses in the university here. All the courses in the university can then be loaded here, and you know, you can then tie it up inside faculty course. Here can be maths, geology or something. I can't remember what I called the other one the other time again, but that's fine. MTH1 102. So elementary maths or something. Elementary maths. Okay, so that's having 7 and 8, but I can change it to 1 and 2 so that we can now do our query if we want to. So I have everything saved, and that is the end of today's class. But I would like you guys to take a look at the whole thing. And one of the cool things I found out with this tool is that it allows you to look at the table structure of everything. So let me print out this table structure of this whole thing for you to see. I found that out. How did I find that out? It looks so nice. Let me print out this from here. So generate document. So I'm going to generate a document so that you're going to see. It's opening a Word document. We are done, guys, so you can ask your questions.
That's stuff recorded.
Yes, of course. So I want to show you guys something. So this one, if you were doing this in school now, for example, maybe the purpose of